T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! What a half! What a half! What a half! I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's rough.
I'm very much rooting for the Eagles, so this was less than ideal. But hey, injuries and everything. Second half team.
Yep.
I hope. Probably not. It was a great week for me as a Patriots fan. We did not lose, so that was fantastic. We get the Jets next week, so we'll see how we do. Brian, Broncos, how are we feeling?
It's great because it's one just week closer to Nathaniel Hackett being fired. So
we can all hope and pray, and then maybe Russell Wilson decides to be a good quarterback again. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's just so hard because the Broncos defense is so good that neither team can do anything offensively, and the games just are brutal.
Yeah. I like follow along here and there, and like anytime it cuts to the game, it's just like, oh, here's a 40-yard pass play that's not connected. It's like, just throw 5-yard out. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So today's show is gonna be a little bit different. Rather than just recapping the week and kind of like doing what we normally do, we want to help and kind of get ahead of the trade deadlines in fantasy. Try to get you guys so you have a week or two to start trying to make some deals, find some people that you like, and then on the flip side, take advantage of some sell high opportunities. And Brian and I have a couple of bold takes at the end on some sell highs. Probably old takes exposed, but hey, that's what fantasy is. You got to give it a whirl. So before we fully get off with our sell high, I just want to say I've been talking about Rachaad White on this show, I think since week 5. I went back and looked at the notes. It was like week 4, week 5, where I'm like, listen, he's getting more work every single week. Add him. If you are a contender in redraft, you must add Rachaad White and just stash him because it's going to happen. Not if Leonard Fournette gets hurt, when. And what did we see? Even before Fournette got hurt, he was taking over the work. He was getting good run. I saw today Fournette might be back for this game, but even if he is, Rachaad White was starting to take over. So if for any reason he's still on waivers, you absolute must add. But he's also someone I would go trade for. But with that said, you disagree, but I'm sticking to my guns on that. I'll be wrong. It's okay. But Brian,
I'm just laughing because you just sound like a girlfriend or a wife just saying "I told you so."
Listen, I if I have a chance, I have to say it. So
yeah,
I got to do with it. But let's start the show. Really get going. Brian, start us off. Who are some people that you think that we should trade for?
So I've been banging this drum every week, and it's the Miami backfield. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson both. We said last week that if they're both playable, and they both were. So I would be honestly trading more for Jeff Wilson than Raheem Mostert. It is kind of worrisome that they are having equal number of touches, but Jeff Wilson is getting a little bit more snaps. So it is actually a lot more in favor of Jeff Wilson. So he's definitely the one that I would go for. But also, I think it might just be the hot hand here. So either guys could get hot. And also, if either of them go down, which Mostert hasn't been the healthiest running back, neither is Jeff Wilson. But if either of them go down, it's back to bell cow, for either of these guys.
And I think that's also why they added Jeff Wilson, is to ease the pressure off Mostert. So I like both of these guys a lot.
Yeah. And then Miami doesn't have a great playoff schedule, but it's also not terrible. Patriots are good. Week 15, week 16. I didn't even list who this was, but is it Houston? We'll get back to that.
It might be.
But yeah, I think it's Houston. But then 17, you do have the Bills, but it's Miami. They're arguably the best offense in the NFL. So they're one of the most efficient. So I think you should go after these guys pretty hardly.
Yeah, I like both, and I think Mostert might even be the slightly cheaper option at this point after Jeff Wilson's big game. So yeah,
Yeah.
big agree on that one. So next up, I know actually I saw someone list him as a sell high. Interesting, but I kind of like Kadarius Toney as someone to go add. He's about 50 to 60% owned or rostered on the big three platforms, so he could just be a waiver addition for you. And it is a bit Juju dependent, right? If depending on how long he's out. But I really like him. I think, with Juju out, Tony was forced into a little bit more of a bigger role, which I think really is going to help accelerate his play into this offense. Houston, Seattle, Denver to end the season. So, right, Seattle's a pretty decent defense. Denver, we all know, we just talked about, is legit. But with Mahomes at quarterback, I'm a little less concerned about that. And even with Juju, when he comes back, Mahomes can carry multiple receivers as viable plays. And I think Tony, just the more he plays, he's going to get a lot of work. Andy Reid's going to use him all over the field. So I would definitely go get Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, just to track back, it was Green Bay week 16 for Miami. So that's people can just run over them like crazy. So
yes.
Next, we have Tyler Higbee, which we had written him off last week. But
yeah, we did.
how quickly things change, and there's very few players that are going to change an offense when you lose them, like Cooper Kupp. He was seeing over 30% of the yardage for this absolutely horrific offense. Like this,
yeah.
How did it's such a massive step back from last season.
And all my Allen Robinson shares.
Yeah, it's brutal. But Schefter reported that it's probably a high ankle sprain. He's probably not going to be usable for the rest of the season, or Cooper Kupp isn't. So is it the Higbee show? So it's going to be rough. But he did have a really good week this week. He had 8 targets for 8 receptions, 73 yards. It wasn't Matthew Stafford, but Higbee has been a favorite of Stafford in the past. So without Kupp, I think Higbee is someone you could really turn to. I think people are going to be rushing to the wide receivers first. I think Allen Robinson is going to be someone that a lot of people are going to be looking at. You might be able to sneak in and get Higbee. I'm not going to say cheaply, but he might be worth the pickup now or trying to trade for.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. Some of these guys that we'll talk about as trade fours aren't exactly buy lows by any means. But sometimes you got to pay up if you want to, especially make that championship run. So next is someone that it's probably too late for, in Cole Kmet. Field has been going crazy, and Kmet is right, especially yesterday, the touchdown plays, the broken play where he was just like wide open by 30 yards, like crazy. So, Fields obviously as a runner has really elevated the Bears offense, but from a passing standpoint, not as much. The past 2 weeks, he only has 29 completions and 290 pass yards. So that's not exactly ideal, right? But Kmet is getting a lot of work. And as we know, I was looking at the tight end ranks, like Tyler Conklin, I'm pretty sure is still like tight end 7 or 8 or something. And he had like 2 points or not even this week. Like it's desolate out there. So if you have to pay up for a tight end, someone in that offense is a good get. And he's definitely someone that Fields likes to throw to. But it might be too late. So whoever has him, especially if they're a contender, they're not going to be moving him. You're muted again. Come on.
Sorry, I heard some static, and so I tried to mute myself trying to get rid of it. He is also the guy that when Fields is scrambling, which seems to be every play, he does look for Cole Kmet. So especially in the red zone. So this next guy, I was so excited after the first few weeks, and then he's kind of cooled off relatively. It's Chris Olave. Andy Dalton, I don't know how Andy Dalton has such a strong hold on this quarterback position, but we're starting to see it possibly slip away. And if we get Jameis back under center, I think Olave is a borderline wide receiver 1. with Jabu earlier this season, he had 9.7 targets a game. This is over the first 3 games. 5.7 receptions per game, 89 yards, and 18.5 air yards per target.
Yeah.
So he was throwing it to Olave. With Andy Dalton, it's been just a step down in targets per game, 8.7 targets per game, but an increase in receptions, so nearly one more reception per game for about 10 less yards. But here's the big difference is he's getting 12.2 air yards per target.
Yeah.
So 6
noticeably
less air yards per target. Andy Dalton's not pushing it downfield the way that Jameis. No one pushes it downfield the way Jameis does. But if you trade for Olave now, you have a nice floor. He's usable. He's at least a flex, if not a wide receiver too. But if Jameis comes back, you have a guy that could really, really excel in the fantasy playoffs. You have Atlanta in Week 15, which that is just an elite matchup. The only thing is you do have Eagles Week 17, but if it's Jameis, who cares? So it's someone that
I mean, Jameis certainly won't care.
Yeah, medium floor, and then really high ceiling with Olave. So I'd be trying to move for Olave if I can.
Yeah. So quick thing, football talks, trade Barkley, Olave, and Goddard for CMC, Lamb, Schultz, and Deshaun Watson. QB is Herbert, not playing good right now, fantasy-wise. I have zero faith. I don't know. Deshaun Watson hasn't played, and coming back mid-season, he could start off hot right away. I don't know if I really want to trust that. Herbert hasn't, been good, but Keenan Allen, who's someone we're about to talk about, should be coming back, right? So Barkley's crushing. Olave, we love Olave. Goddard's good. I think it might depend on the rest of your team. I don't know if I really like the Deshaun Watson inclusion. Because I don't know if I want to trust him this year in redraft.
I don't like the CMC inclusion. I don't like that he's splitting carries now. So
yeah, that's also true. Next up, Paris Campbell. This is someone that I've talked a few times about, just because I've been a truther, and now that I'm happy he's doing well. But this is from Dwayne McFarland. He had a 33% target share yesterday, and then over his last 3 games with Matt Ryan, 97% route participation, 29 targets, so a 25% share, 24 receptions for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is quickly becoming someone that Matt Ryan really enjoys throwing to. And, the offense obviously isn't fantastic, but they're going to be probably playing from behind a lot. They're going to have to throw it, even with Jonathan Taylor there taking off. So I really like Paris Campbell. He's someone that's not super rostered, so he could frankly just be a roster addition, a waiver ad. But big fan of Paris Campbell. I think, if that offense kind of continues to move the way that it is, I really like it. I really like go again, Paris Campbell.
Yeah, he's someone that I have to give you props that you've never wavered on, and I should have listened a little bit more.
Never give up, never surrender. Don't say you're wrong.
I feel like this next guy is going to be my version of that. Greg Dulcich, the guy is just first off, he just completely made every other tight end in that offense irrelevant. He's been running the third most routes every game, pretty much behind the 2 starting wide receivers. He was behind Sutton, and it's now Kendall Hilton, who was the starting quarterback last season, if you remember, for that one COVID game. That was fun.
Oh, that was fun.
But he's the third option in that offense. So has the second most routes since week 6. Now that Judy pretty much didn't even run a route. He ran 1 route last week. And he's getting those deep shots that it's funny. He's like the Tyler Lockett of the Broncos offense. He had one that was just fingertips away. That he could have, if he had had that just a foot closer to him, he could have ran that in for probably it would have been a 67-yard touchdown pass. The guy is a tight end deep threat. So if you need someone that could really, if you need a tight end that has a lot of high upside, Dulcich is your guy. And then you can't forget that you can't look over that they get the Cardinals week 16. Cardinals are
Woo!
notorious for just
Yeah.
forgetting about the tight end position and just letting them feast. So Cardinals week 16, he's a deep threat that has a chance to have a massive week. He's someone that if you really need high variance to get into the playoffs, I would be trading for him, and he should be pretty cheap after a relatively bad fantasy week, but still the usage was decently there.
Yeah, and he's been playing well. So he had his blip rookie tight end, but one 6 inches away from a massive fantasy day. So next up, talking about my guy, Keenan Allen, who's been a steady Eddie producer for like 6-7 years now. He got hurt again. He's not injury prone. I saw that on Twitter. Like, I'll never do this again. He's injury prone. I'm like, dude, it's been like 8 years. Stop it. He might be coming back this week. For my own sake, I'm praying he's back this week, but he is very close. And the Chargers need him. They really need him back, especially with Mike Williams also out. They're really desperate. And when he comes back, I think he's going to be a lock for like 12 targets a game. Like, he should absolutely smash. He was Ben Herbert's favorite target for a long time. Once he's back, especially with Williams out, right, it's going to happen again. He should crush it. It's not really a based off his playoff matchups, but he's really just an elite wide receiver in an offense that needs it. And they're going to, if they have any chance they're going to have to get him back and start winning games almost nonstop the rest of the way. So get him now before he's fully back. I think today he started a practice or something, or he's expected to be back. So I would be a little proactive. Go get him now before he's fully back. And then the Keenan manager doesn't want to move him. So I would try to go get him now.
Yeah, he does get Tennessee week 15, though, in the first week of the playoffs. So Tennessee is giving it the most pass yards per game this season. So
we do like that.
Finally, I have a guy that I kind of got a little heat for suggesting was a buy. Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I know he's a first-round pick. Okay, guys, I know it. But he did have a down week against the Broncos. So if there is a sell low possibility for a first-round pick, if that even exists, this might be it. But his playoff schedule is ridiculous. So if you need to make a push into the playoffs, or you think you're going to get, like, you have some guys that you can trade, get Derrick Henry. So you have week 15 against the Chargers. We saw what the 49ers were able to do last night, Sunday Night Football. Like, you can just run over the Chargers. And they're getting injured on the defensive tackle position. Like, Chargers are nothing. Then week 16, you get Houston. His last 3 meetings, Derrick Henry is averaging 227 rushing yards per game. That's more than Justin Fields is passing. Like, this guy is like, and then he gets Dallas week 17, which I think might be a point that you could try and trade for. Be like, hey, look, championship week, if you're on sleeper, Dallas is dark red. I'd be scared. Dallas gives up the 4th most rushing yards to running backs so far this season per game. I think there's a solid chance that Derrick Henry has 3 straight 200-yard rushing games in the playoffs.
Tractor Cedo season, baby.
Yeah, he's going against 3 of the worst 4 rush defenses if you look at yards per game. And, like, the passing game is actually starting to look a little better. The fact that they're able to move as much against the Broncos and Treylon Burks was back. He had 6 targets. Teams might not be able to devote as many players to stopping Henry as they can. I also think that they should do a flea flicker every drive. But
yeah,
dude, Derrick Henry, I predict a lot of championship teams are going to have Derrick Henry on them.
Yeah, he's someone you can kind of sell the farm for and go all in because he's gonna smash. So now looking into some people to trade away. This is especially based off playoff matchups. So, right, trying to project ahead, trying to look ahead. So, again, telling the future. You win some, you lose some. But first people, it's kind of a mix. Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd. Right, especially with Jamar Chase. kind of out and not really sure. I saw something today where Jamar Chase is like still on crutches, so that's not really an ideal sign. But they have a pretty rough playoff schedule going up against Tampa, New England, and Buffalo. Tampa is really starting to gel a little bit better on defense. They're getting healthier, right, getting a little bit better. New England's New England. They always scheme up and play well. And Buffalo is still a very good defense. Right, they should also have Trey White and Jordan Poyer back, which is going to improve them even more. So it's a pretty rough schedule, and especially if Jamar Chase isn't back by that point, I just don't love that outlook and those projections. And especially someone like Tyler Boyd, being the wide receiver too, there you might be able to get some decent value and go get someone that we just talked about up above, or Boyd for like someone lower and someone else. So I would try to take advantage of that. Don't really love that playoff schedule.
Yeah. Also, if you need to get into the playoffs and you have Jamar Chase sitting on your bench, I would not be afraid of moving him.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, name value alone.
Yeah. Next we have James Conner. So a lot of people were I was surprised that they dropped Benjamin today. That was out of the blue.
Yeah.
Especially since Connor's health has been a massive issue. And also, Connor had the best game of his season so far. He scored, 23 fantasy points. He played 96% of snaps. And I think this is a great sell high. People will be like, oh man, people might be coming to you to get Connor with them dropping Benjamin. But he doesn't have a great playoff schedule. He has Denver, Tampa, and Atlanta. Atlanta is great against pass defense, not necessarily great against run defense.
Mm-hmm.
And also we'll talk about it a little bit. This
Mm-hmm.
team just doesn't feel right. It was weird that they've had one of the best offensive games when Colt McCoy was quarterback. So
people are asking. Yeah. And the other two matchups for Connor, Denver, who is nasty, and the Tampa run defense, now that they're starting to gel, it's the best run defense in the league. So not really loving that.
And also I could see Tampa being a buzzsaw by that time. I think they might be just gearing up to go for the playoffs. And so that's a team that I'd want to avoid week 16.
Yeah, they're seeming like they're going to start to turn it on here. All right, so the next two are some hot takes. So I guess we can just pre-old takes expose ourselves. But the first one, so this one will be me. It's currently the RB6, Josh Jacobs. Now, hear me out. It's a ridiculously dumb take for the fact that he is legitimately their running back. All of their rushes, their backfield work, he is the dude. Tommy, don't hate me. I'm sorry. But his playoff schedule, he versus the Patriots, at the Steelers, and then the 49ers in week 17. So again, Patriots are an okay run defense. They're fine. The Steelers with TJ Watt, it's kind of hard to say right now. With his inclusion, that entire defense just changes drastically. And the 49ers are a fantastic rush defense. So, he's going to get steady work, but those 3 games he might not smash like he has in the past with those couple, especially those 30-point games are also really carrying him because he has a couple of real clunkers in the mix there too. So he's someone that you could absolutely sell high, being his RB6 value, and kind of avoid especially that week 17 championship matchup against the 49ers. So that's someone that I think you could sell high and get a couple of good pieces for.
Yeah, I hate that I agree with that. I just don't know if I can get on with how much of a workhorse he is. But what the hell are the Ravens doing right now?
Especially in fantasy, that matters. And so, bold takes.
This one I'm really excited about because I know I'm right. DeAndre Hopkins, get rid of him now.
No.
So he has been incredible since he's gotten back. He leads the NFL in targets, receptions, and is third in receiving yards since his first game back in week 7. So why would I sell him? So Cliff Kingsbury mentioned that Marquise Brown is close to returning. He should be back after the week 13 bye. And then let's just remember 1 week ago, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins aren't really seeing eye to eye. So I don't think it's coincidence that with Murray being injured this week, DeAndre Hopkins had another great game. I'm not sure once Hollywood Brown comes back if we're going to see Hopkins seeing this amount of volume. So, yeah, this team feels broken. I think there's a strong chance that Kingsbury gets fired by the end of the season. And then the schedule on top of it just isn't great. You have Denver the first week, which Denver is just a fantastic defense. He does get the porous Atlanta secondary that I mentioned in championship week. I don't think he's taken you there to championship week. I think right now is the perfect time to sell DeAndre Hopkins.
See, personally, I would Dukes, close your ears. I would rather sell Rondale Moore if you have him. But I get it. And then really the argument could also be with the way that Moore has been playing these last couple of weeks. If he continues to stay hot and Hollywood Brown also comes, right, maybe the ball just does get spread a little bit more and he loses a little bit of that edge.
But hey, here's
bold.
a counterpoint.
Like it's bold.
DeAndre Hopkins, you might be able to get Derrick Henry for DeAndre Hopkins.
I mean, I would do that.
So you might have to add a little bit to it, but I think Hopkins is going to be good. I don't think he's going to just fall off a cliff, but I think we've seen the best of him this season so far.
And yeah, that week 17 matchup is clutch, but you also have to get there. So, that's pretty much it. Our quick hits is a true quick hit. Jerick McKinnon led Kansas City with 8 targets, and he went 6 for 56. So maybe CEH just ghosted. Pacheco wasn't great. Yeah, CEH, that's a wild one. So McKinnon could be that passing down guy. Nice little bench stash in there for you. But that's really the only quick hit. It's already a long show, so we want to keep this moving. So with that said, our Robbie Anderson of the Week award, which may have to be renamed here shortly, for the second or third week in a row, it feels like. Our winner of the Robbie Anderson of the Week award, really of the year award, is Kyle Pitts. Again, 8 targets and a very solid 2 for 27.
And yet 2 straight weeks he's led the NFL in air yards. So
got to start playing in air yards leagues. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, I think we might have to rename this the Robbie Anderson, Kyle Pitts. And if Twitter goes down, the Elon Musk of the Week award.
Yes, it's the all-encompassing award. All right, so thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you can start to use some of those player names to go acquire, build that championship roster, and then take a couple of those sell high while you can. Get some people that are going to build your team up, take advantage of your sell windows. So, Brian, you know the deal. Send us off. Animal fact.
So, since the Eagles are playing, the eagle or the sound you mostly hear attributed to bald eagles in like movies and like you'll hear it in sports venues a lot is not a bald eagle. The bald eagle actually is a really weak call that just sounds pathetic. So most times you'll just hear a red-tailed hawk noise be used because that sounds a lot more patriotic.
I knew that one. I knew that wasn't the bald eagle. I know. Man of many talents over here. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. This was a little bit longer, but we wanted to talk about a lot of people. Probably could have talked about a few more, but this is what we got for you. We will see you next week with more of a normal show and some trade people again, right, with another week to see what's going on and, avoid some more injuries.
Now is the time where you win your league. If you've if you drafted well and set yourself up, now is where you can make a few trades that really win it for you. So,
be proactive. All right, everybody. See you next week. Peace.
Adios.